welcome to another episode of the Brown and Black podcast. My name is Jack Rico.
And I'm Mike Sargent.
And every week we take a look at race and pop culture through a brown and black lens.
This is Brown and Black, and we are here with, I should say famed, I should say legendary, I should say infamous Warren Drummond, who's a storyboard artist for so many directors. It's hard to name. John Singleton, Ron Howard, Denzel Washington, so many people. Warren, I've known you forever. I don't want to say how long because I don't want to give away.
You forgot to mention Frank Reyes.
Yeah, Frank. Well, that's right. And that I'll tell the Frank Reyes story. I'll tell the Frank Reyes story. Warren is a storyboard artist working in Hollywood. He's worked for over 30 years now doing storyboards, and he has a new book out called A Hard Day's Work: Storyboards and Stories of 15 Select Films and Television Shows. Now, I know a lot about storyboards, but Jack only knows a little. So I'm going to let Jack start out with trying to get an explanation of what the hell do you do?
Just remember when Mike said that I've been in business for 30 years, I started when I was 9 years old. So just
wow.
How labor laws weren't in effect. So I'm just saying.
Well, Warren, first of all, it's an honor to meet you. I'm a fellow Queens boy. I was born in Flushing and lived in Jackson Heights, Woodside. I love my Queens. And there's been a lot of great people, including you, to come out of Queens. But I love your story, your journey from Queens to Hollywood, because it's not like you look at Queens and you go, yeah, that's where all the talent is. It's a location of resilience.
Yes.
It's a geographic location of resilience. This is where you really prove your mettle. Manhattan has always been sort of like that aspirational place that you want to go to, but to then say Hollywood, I mean, sometimes for a Queens boy, your mind can't go that far. I can't dream that big. Manhattan is as big as it gets for a Queens boy. So tell me about your story from Queens to Hollywood. How would you describe your breakthrough, especially in an industry dominated mainly by the majority?
Right. How do I describe it? Steady and slow, man. It's not like it was not a one-punch knockout by any means. I had to jab, to duck, dodge, weave, uppercut, work the body, and then finally break through to the head to knock out to get to Hollywood.
Damn. So this was a fighting experience. This was a 12-15 round with Muhammad Ali.
It was, yes, it was comparable to Ali Frazier, the last fight. It's just really perseverance. A big part of it is having my family behind me, because a lot of us, particularly Black working class, you can only go this far because we don't have artists in the family or the Black artists.
You're just surviving.
Yes. My father was brilliant. He worked for the Board of Ed. He had an electronics background. He was an immigrant from Costa Rica. He wrote for popular electronics magazines. He had been on TV for interview on TV repair. I mean, he was a brilliant guy. My mother was a Harlem resident. She was a school teacher, a guidance counselor, because she loved to help kids. So they were both highly educated people. My brother John is a phenomenally talented artist. He was one of my two heroes as artists growing up. My brother John, he was John Jr., and then there's John Romita Sr., the comic book artist. So they were my two Johns I looked up to. So the advantage I had over my brother was that John was the one that had to go through the wall first as far as being the artist in the family. So I didn't have the same resistance from my father that he did. and my sister was able to be freer somewhat too. But coming up, our mother was always behind us, but Dad not so much. But my mother always said, "Go for everything that you can," but she'd always make sure that I would. Could you maybe take the exam for the post office, just in case? If you worked for Stanley, and there was a time when a teenager, if I could ever work for Marvel Comics, she said, even if you pick up paper clips, do that just to get started at Marvel. Meaning, whatever you have to do to get the job that you want, do that thing and then go high as you can. But her whole thing was get in. So she was always behind me, but she also had that side of that as a parent. There's also practical.
I was going to ask quickly, did you say your father's from Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Wait, so you're Afro-Latino?
No, here's the thing. If I was, technically my Spanish would be so much better than it is. So his parents were from Jamaica. So they immigrated to Costa Rica. So Dad grew up bilingual. He knew he was bilingual. His family, a lot of them stayed there. So then their kids are now Afro-Latino because they married with the people there. So that side of my family is very Afro-Latino. But I also have 2 half-sisters whom I love very much. They both passed, but they were from Panama because Dad got around a little bit. So I had that sisters there. Then I have another sister who was in Panama. So there is that side to the family. And I do have that family certainly who grew up speaking Spanish, but I just stunk at it.
Hey, there's always time to learn, especially now with Bad Bunny and everybody else.
My sister, Linda, she learned it in high school and stayed at it. So she's fine with it. She speaks Spanish with her family down there, but me, agua. That's it. That's my limit.
Well, I have my Spanish Latino questions ready, but I'm going to let Mike chip in it because if not, it's going to be like the Jack Rico Warren Drummond podcast. So.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Jack Rico's known you like 10 minutes. He already knows stuff about you that I never knew all these years. Okay. So I had no idea that you had this whole Latino side to your family. I did not know this one.
Oh, yeah. They got my brother David, and that's another story, but he speaks Spanglish. So it is part of the family.
Look at that. Look at that.
I just say, you're out there.
There it is. And then here you worked with Peter Ramsey too,
my man,
the Afro-Latino Spider-Man. Look at that. Look at that connection.
Pete's a great dude.
I know. Well, you work with Peter Ramsey, which is interesting. Peter Ramsey now is a big director in all these animated films, but he started out doing storyboards. As a matter of fact, from part of your story, you replaced him on a movie, or he replaced you. Tell me a little bit of your Peter Ramsey story.
Peter was actually John Singleton's first storyboard artist. So Peter did John's first 5 movies. Rosewood, Higher Learning, Poetic Justice, Boys in the Hood. And then when Shaft came to be, Peter left to work on another project, and then they needed a replacement. They were doing production in Los Angeles. So I got the call, was I interested? And I got a call from a guy named Roger Paradiso. And the way that it works with connections, I had worked with Roger Paradiso a few years earlier because a friend of mine, Al Valentine, who's a brother, recommended we meet a Roger. I say that because you never know what person that you work with or you're friends with can connect you directly or indirectly to a person further down the line. In the same way that you can help other people help you, even though they don't realize that they're helping you. So Al introduced me to Roger. Roger then recommended me for the Shaft movie. I came out to LA, paid my way, and I was able to be out here for like 6 weeks because I had friends out here who let me stay at the places. Hill Harper was one of the people that let me stay. Shelley and a friend of mine from Bloomingdale's. Sean Michael Howard, he's an actor. that I met on Brother Run.
Oscar Nunez.
Oscar was based in New York. No, Oscar, that's another story, because Oscar, we worked at Bloomingdale's, and Oscar was a salesperson that got me into the Black Filmmaker Foundation, which introduced me to the Hudlin brothers, who introduced me to their assistant, Rodney Stringfellow. Rodney recommended me for The Drop Squad, which was my first film. So again, everything is connected. I had a childhood.
It's fascinating.
Looking out for me. That's another big part. I have friends who helped me out.
Warren, I did want to ask you, in the same line, you've worked on over 120 films and TV series in your career. And I'm wondering what it is about your specific approach and your specific process in storyboarding that has allowed you to set yourself apart from the rest. I mean, come on. You've been working pretty much since 1994 up to now. It doesn't even sound like a drop-off. 120 is like, it's a dream for any storyboard artist or anybody doing any type of work, an actor, a director, anything. So what is it about the way you storyboard? What is it about your specific talent versus any other storyboard artist that sets you in the elite class? What is it? What is that thing, that special magic and sauce?
The Warren Drummond effect.
That's funny. I will say, when you're the top artist, and there are a lot of really talented people that I go, damn, skills. The top artist, the main thing is you listen to what the director wants, and you give them something extra. A lot of us, you'll give them something they hadn't thought about, but you have to also give them what they want. I got the movie The Devil's Own because the first artist on the movie was slow, apparently, and he didn't listen to the DP. So you got to listen to the director. What do they want? But then say, hey, what about this? And you also have to know, how does that director like to work? Because they work differently. As I've told people, John Singleton, he loved to shot list everything. And then he'd give you room to be creative. Ron Howard does not shot list, at least on A Beautiful Mind, he did not shot list. He also had the great DP Roger Deakins around the corner. So Brick, the other artist, would meet with Ron. He'd tell us what the scene was about, and then he let us do what we saw in the scene, and then we would come back to Ron and he'd give us feedback. Other directors know certain shots that they want. They say, I want to have a shot like this, a shot like that, and then you come in and fill the blanks. Some directors don't have any visual sense at all, and you have to be there and be their visual to spark them. And some people, they want to see it through another eye. When I do the Halloween movies that I've done, the latter ones with David Gordon Green, David likes to have me do a first pass without shot listing because he trusts me. We trust each other. But he'll let me do a first pass. And then once he sees it, he goes, now I know what I need. And then he's on fire. Then he's ready to go. But he likes to have that first pass. Something Denzel said to me, he says, you don't just show me what I want, you show me what I don't want. Which is still a compliment, but if he doesn't want to have, let's say, high angles, wide angles, low angles, but wants to do something that's more of a Robert Redford naturalness, he'll let you know what he wants in a movie. And then, are you fast? I am pretty fast to jot down the idea, so you're not waiting around the whole time. So you got to be have the speed and be creative. And people should be able to tell what's going on without you even writing descriptions. So that's what the top artists do. Those are the different talents the top artists in the business have.
Wow, that's a great answer, Warren. Just so you know, Jack, this is the way I reconnected with Warren, because Warren was talking about relationships, and it's true. I have a relationship with a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, Frank Reyes. And before I was a filmmaker, I was doing storyboards. Frank knew this. Frank pulled me literally out of retirement and said, hey, I want you to do storyboards for this film. So I did storyboards for one film. Then I was doing storyboards for a film that he was shooting in Puerto Rico. And it was being produced by John Singleton. Mm-hmm. And make a long story short, I was there in Puerto Rico, did storyboards. And then it was like, Singleton wants to bring in his boy, and I want you. So I'm going to both have you storyboard this scene, and we'll go with whoever's scene is better. I'm like, oh, who the fuck is this?
Whack, by the way.
The fuck is this fucking John Singleton and his fucking guy? Fuck that guy.
I didn't know.
And then,
wow, it was like that. It was like that.
Like that. And then it's like, it's fucking Warren. Of course, Warren, whatever. So yeah,
and that's how we resented, clearly, as you can tell.
No, I'm just saying. And what's great is we got to catch up. I hadn't seen Warren in at least 10 years at that point.
At least.
And I remember asking Warren. I said, "Well, Warren, what is it you think sets you apart? Something similar to what you asked, Jack." And he says, "Well, storytelling." And he's right. And I think one of the things that I know as a storyboard artist, and I feel, and I don't remember who said it to me, but a storyboard artist in many ways is like the first director. Mm-hmm. And what you said, every director works differently. Like for a director to give you the script and let you take a pass at it, what you said, David Gordon Green, that's amazing, because it's really like directing the film, because you're seeing it, you're interpreting it. But what you're interpreting, and this is the important thing, people who don't know storyboard, and this is for everybody else on the team, lighting. This is a diagram for everybody else to know what the hell the shot is. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious for you, just coming off of Jack's question about storyboarding and working with all these different directors. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on storytelling, especially how you've seen it evolve? Because now one of the last storyboards I did was for a commercial, actually for John Leguizamo, because I met him working on Frank's film, and then he hired me for some stuff he was doing. And that production manager had me take all the storyboards, do a quick time movie, and put the voiceover to what the whole thing was going to be like, almost like an animatic.
Right.
Now, almost like an animatic. So I'm just curious, what have you seen over time change for storytelling just with storyboards, or what do you think has remained the same, and or what do you think most people don't realize about the role storyboards play?
Well, certainly digital, going from hand-drawn to digital has changed everything as far as the pipeline.
Yeah, now they have programs that'll do all your storyboards for you.
Well, that's another
computer program.
I was going to say that AI and Midjourney are also threats to the storyboard artists, because Hollywood is like, how much do I got to pay Warren Drummond with that resume? Right, versus like asking this AI that can do it for free. And does that pose a threat to a Warren Drummond? And to a black storyboard artist to boot.
All of these questions at Warren, all of these questions I want to answer.
When I was starting it, everything was paper, pencil, marker, just like the Hitchcock board artist. Nothing had changed, right? You made copies. If you want to make a change, you got to draw everything all over again. So when you do your first pass, the rule was that you sketch very lightly. Don't do anything too detailed, because the director might say this is right, wrong, even if it's mostly right, but you got to move it a foot over this way. You got to have a wider, tighter, whatever. You have to change everything, or go to copy machine, enlarge or reduce or cut things down and all that stuff. When digital boards came in, then you're able to, with Photoshop, or some people use Painter and their new programs, then now you can move things around. You draw things, you can change things, widen, move left, copy backgrounds. You don't have to draw 50 million people. You just copy and paste. Then when they started making storyboard programs, and these are programs where you're still the artist, they don't draw for you, just that you can do an animatic in these things. You can have it where you can move frames around. So if you want to have, rather than frames going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you put 5 in front of the 2, move 2 where 4 was, and just move them around. But there is a program out there that has AI storyboards. I mean, it's pretty, but it doesn't have feeling. And can it come up with things on the dot, and can it give you ideas rather than just give you something standard?
But are you concerned at all?
Yes.
5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Because computers, they don't get less intelligent, they get more intelligent. So am I? Yes, there has to be something. Look, AI is going to affect everything. Name something where a manufacturer that's paying for a worker doesn't try to cut the worker out. They don't want to have a assembly line of people when they can have something, an AI machine or whatever, do the work of 10, 20, 30 people.
Well, I have to add to that, not just 10, 20, 30 people, specifically like Jack's saying, the artist. Why hire somebody? You want to self-publish? You don't have to hire an artist to do the illustration for your book. You can use this AI program, a coloring book. You want this, you want that, you want a logo, you want anything that an artist could have been hired for. Mm-hmm. And I guess my concern, like Jack says, I feel it will start to devalue the artist and give a less appreciation for people who can create. And no, you can't replace a director, but in a sense, if you're just orchestrating a suite of programs to do all the work, you become less of an artist and more of a creative director. Do you foresee a future like that? And does that scare you?
It scares me. They're looking for, how do I have the most financial profit as possible? That's always what they're thinking about. And if you find someone that's not thinking that way, fantastic, not so far.
But Warren, so now this leads me to the following question.
Yes.
There's an existential AI threat to the artist, to storyboarding. And I asked myself, when I was reading the Ron Howard foreword, he essentially was talking about how the storyboard artist inspires the director.
Yeah.
It inspires the actor. It inspires the cinematographer. Without the storyboard, without the shot selections that you come up with that deeply resonate with them and the audience, you're essentially the director. Therefore, how is it possible that you haven't pursued directing as the natural evolution of the storyboard artist, especially in a time of existential threat, where the director isn't being threatened, the artist is? So why haven't you directed at all yet?
And now Lauren's going to say, I'm glad you asked that question.
Glad you asked that question.
Because I know you did a short film that was a short film, but a feature-length film or television series.
Oh, well, it's getting the opportunity. What I can say is that there's a project that I have that is under review as an artist. Someone has a high interest in this project. And upon selling this, when I sell this, it'll create heat, or who is Warren as an artist? And I will then say, oh, I have this other project. I'd like to direct them. So it's taken a while. And the thing is, what people don't know is that I got into the business to write. Storyboards came later. When I was at SVA, I wanted to do two things. Either I wanted to be a comic book artist, or I wanted to write scripts. So I took 3 years of screenwriting. So in my head, I was always, when I got into storyboards, storyboards allowed me to make a living at what I did and create. But my mind was always on selling a screenplay. It was always the goal. So I've written a lot of scripts. Some got an interest, some got somewhere, some didn't get anywhere. But it was always the end game. If you've seen the movie Antoine Fisher's in the books, the scene where Antoine is in the bunk sketching a cricket, not only did I do the cricket illustration for the actor Derek Luke, not only did I work with Derek Luke to fake being an artist, to how does an artist hold the pencil, and what faces we might make, and what edges. On the day they were filming it, Denzel said, "Warren, go direct the shot." And I directed that shot of Derek Luke as Antoine Fisher drawing in the bunk. I was yelling directors to him.
You're a director, Warren.
Yes.
You're a director.
You're a director.
There it is.
You're a director.
You're a director.
You're a director.
That's it. You directed the scene for Denzel Washington.
You're a director. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You're a director.
Exactly. That's how I should have introduced you.
All right. And again, I have to thank my wife for always saying, "You're a director, do it." And she would kick my ass. She won't be nice about it. But Betty,
give her Jack's number. Jack's going to help.
People just say,
we're both going to support this notion of you becoming a full-time director.
I want, man. Now the time. Because again, why not me? Why not me? I'm as smart, as creative as anyone out there. Give me a shot. Because there's a lot of there are films where you go, come on, man.
I could do better than that.
It's logic. It's not about being a fancy director. It's about being smart. It's not about always budget. James Cameron did the Terminator. It was a low budget film, but what he did with that money, Robert Rodriguez and El Mariachi, for thousands of dollars, because he had a vision of what to do as a director. I'm just asking for producers who are making a low budget film, hire me.
He knows what he's doing.
I will be creating
Manifest destiny. That's what that's called.
That's it, baby.
Right.
That's it, man.
And then when you get the award, you can say, "I got to thank the Brown and Black show because I said it there," and then they called me.
I will plug the hell out your show. I'll be Brown and Black, but I'll have on brown shoes and black pants. Just Brown and Black. I'll say I'm brown, but I'm black. Man,
that's right.
Listen,
that's right.
Every phrase will be brown and black.
That's it.
Speaking of brown and black, we got to talk about this Latino connection that you have. First of all, in your family and professionally. I want to talk about the Frank Reyes film, Illegal Tender. I know you know Oscar Nunez. He introduced you to the Black Film Foundation. Tell me about your relationship with Latinos in your professional life specifically. Are
there any Latino storyboard artists? I don't know any.
Are there any Latino storyboard artists? And how was the experience with working with Frank Reyes in storyboarding Illegal Tender?
Okay. First of all, one of the best storyboard artists out there, who's a really good friend of mine, who is the nicest guy you'll ever meet, is a brother named Jim Magdaleno, who's Mexican-American. He's exclusively Antoine Fuqua's storyboard artist. Every time there's a Fuqua film, Jim was on it. So Jim is killing it in the field. As far as who else is out there, off the top of my head, because there's also Asian artists out there also. So it's not just black or white. There's also a number of Asian American artists out there. As far as Latino, well, there's a finite amount of Latinos anywhere, I think, in the business. As far as I don't have these are my group of Latino friends. They're just people, whoever I'm cool with. One of my friends, Gabe played the ghostwriter on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Not going back to their base!
Robbie! Don't give them more reasons to be afraid of you.
It's not me they need to be afraid of. It's the other guy, and he wants out!
Will it hold?
No one's broken out yet, and it's held some pretty potent individuals.
Robbie, stop!
What's gonna happen?
Close your eyes.
is he made a deal with the devil.
This is nonsense.
And there, Gabe is on The Last of Us. Plays a brother. He's from Texas. He is a Latino American. He's also one of the coolest guys that you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I think he was also in one of the last Terminator movie.
Yes, he was a Terminator. So he's a friend. He's just a good dude. So I didn't qualify who's my Latino family. Basically, it's my family that's Latino. And then you get into the whole discussion of what do you mean by Latino? Is it then you have Hispanic versus Latino, then you have the Latinx. That's a whole other conversation. I just know that as far as my family, they got the Costa Rican side from my father, certainly via Jamaica. You have my sisters who were born in Panama. That's the other part of the equation. As far as people in the business, Frank, I think you worked with Frank, Mike. I think you worked with Frank more than I did. John.
Oh, I know. They just brought you in when I was on to something else.
Right,
yeah,
then you go.
Trying to get rid of me with you.
Because the curve, it's when my boy wasn't the producer paying for it, it's like, Mike, who? Just kicked him out. And then I just took the wire around your throat and I think I found out years later or a year later, whatever, that was you. But
it was like a year later. Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
John actually, or for a little tender, I know he did some directing second unit. He directed some of the action. But Frank and I were fine. He just that he had a plan of what he wanted, and John had an idea. And since John was the name person, he was John Singleton, and the name, I listened to more what John would say, do this, do that. I think I was certainly working more with John on the movie than with Frank on the movie. So it's not like a fair comparison, even though I work with Frank was telling me things also. But what I'm basically saying is that John had a strong presence on the movie. That's all I'll say. I know that when
he did.
But when Mike worked in Puerto Rico with Frank, Mike worked with Frank, correct? Rather than John.
Correct. Yes. Right. Listen, I was there. I went up to all the sets. I took pictures.
Right.
I was yes.
Yeah. So So tender for me was like a job. It's kind of like a job that it was there, but it was like a job that was interesting because it was the director, but I was working with the producer as much as the director.
Seemed like a team effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never knew my father, but he was the love of my mother's life.
I made you mine, didn't I? Right, Junior?
And the night I was born, he died.
Look, I have a kid coming.
For 20 years, I shared his name. And never thought I'd share his past.
My God.
What are you doing?
We've been spotted.
Been spotted by who?
Mom, what is all that?
You need to defend yourself.
And as far as other Latinos in the business, one of the top stunt coordinators in New York is a brother named
Severio. Yes,
Severio.
I knew Manny back when he was a trainer.
Well, we got to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, yes. I could get him. Manny's again.
Yes,
super talented guy, great person, lovely personality, fantastic martial artist also, has done everything. So Manny should definitely be on the show because Manny can give you the world of stunts and also coming up being one of the Latino stunt people, what are his experiences rather in comparison to like others. So that will be for the future.
Yeah, we would love to have Manny.
Warren, my last question to you is, you're an artist to me. And where you put art is in a museum. Why haven't we ever seen Storyboards have their own gallery at the Met, at the Tate Modern, at the MoMA? Why are Storyboards not there? And when will we see the Warren Drummond Storyboards in the MoMA At the Met, at the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens, your hometown.
I think it's because of the mindset of the people who run museums. As far as most people don't know what we do as storyboard artists. Also, not just us, you'll also notice museums don't have the art of The Empire Strikes Back. They don't have Ralph McQuarrie or Sid Mead paintings from Blade Runner. Now, they may have a special showing for films, perhaps, but by and large, they're not held in the same way. I think because, one...
It's classism.
Certainly classism is part of it, but I think a big part is that what they think as far as what is art, hundreds of years old art, Rembrandt, Monet, Manet,
fine art,
but and also the fact that it is different as far as the difference between art that an artist is just doing out of their head because they want to do the work, even though Michelangelo was asked by the Pope to do the Sistine Chapel. But the fact that we are commercial artists, we're doing it for a job. So it's a job. We're working on this movie, that movie. We're doing work for, let's do a storyboard of Captain America fighting the Red Skull, which is for a film project rather than Jackson Pollock doing something. And I was a big Pollock fan, but just things that artists did just to do their work, or Basquiat or whomever, in comparison to a commercial artist. And there are supremely talented people doing what we do. It's just different. Now, you can have a storyboard artist. No, let me say this. You can have someone who takes paint and throws it against a wall and rocks and get it into a museum because it's considered fine art. And I would say, what the hell is that? But then you have someone who does storyboards or conceptual work or a production designer, and they're also artists, and they'll never see the light of the day. And the work itself is amazing work, but then they'll never get the type of light and shine, let's say, that a museum painting will ever try to do.
Does that bother you?
I never really think about it because, I mean, it's pretty cool when you're watching a movie and your name comes up and people around the world, if they stay around for the credits, will see your name come up. It's pretty cool not to be a starving artist, which a lot of these famous people were. They're famous now that they're dead, but when they were alive, it wasn't that easy. You could lose an ear, per se.
No, actually, that's a great answer, Warren. And I have to say that could actually lead to another conversation, because what you're really saying is art for art's sake is considered art, but art for commercial art is not considered art. But, you know, the reality is there aren't Medicis running around that you can support yourself and just pay for you to do your art for art's sake. You have to make a living. So if you have the talent, you have to turn your art into a quote unquote career. Though I'm sure Michelangelo didn't think, oh, I'm a career artist. That's commercial art. But you wouldn't think of it that way. But yeah, we have to have this conversation again. Let me just say that.
As a matter of fact, part 2 can be better than part 1 or as good. It could be Godfather Part 2, a podcast. It could be
Empire Strikes Back, the podcast.
It could be that. And that's always Empire, Star Wars. Empire shot better though. That's Empire true. Has this cinematography was out of this world. Love that movie. How it looks.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, Warren, thank you very much for taking the time to visit us here on Brown and Black. And we'll be following your career. And you can now people know when Netflix tries to turn off the credits, stay for the credits. Okay.
I hate. Oh, that drives me insane.
The next movie.
That drives me. They do it Disney Plus. It just goes.
They all do it. They all do it.
Man.
See, this is part 2 right here.
There it is.
This is part 2. We got part 2 right. Well, listen, go Queens.
Queens, man.
There's another Queens talent coming out.
We're all Queens.
Mike, you're from Queens?
I'm from Queens. I grew up in Queens Village, dude. Queens Village.
That's why we went to sing.
You said that you lived in Manhattan when you were.
No, I moved to Manhattan after college.
Right. We go back to junior high school.
I went to junior high school.
His 238.
His mother was my guidance counselor. His mother was my guidance counselor. That's how far back we go.
See?
That's how I met her son. There it is.
He couldn't do that from Manhattan. He would not have gone to school.
Look at these talented cinematic artists over here. All right, Warren. Well, so awesome to meet you, and can't wait for part 2, man. And congrats on the book.
Right back at you. Right back at you. Thank you very much.
Well, that's it for this episode of Brown and Black. Thanks to Warren Drummond for coming on the show. And if you would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Your help will allow us to be heard by many more people. You can follow our comments and opinions on @BrownBlackPodcast on X, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. We'll see you on the next episode of Brown and Black.